Hey, everybody. We, as in the check-in productions, have actually made it to Instagram Live. So before I get too far along with this, I want to start inviting some people up. So if you give me just 1 second here, I'm going to start inviting some other people in to join us. So then that way we can get started. So again, this is the check-in with. This is the month of April. This is our monthly I'm sorry, I'm so busy saying Facebook Live. Hey, baby, give me just a second. I'm just making the introductions. This is our monthly, in this case, Instagram live chat that we do every single month. This month in particular, we are going to be having a very informative conversation. Specifically, we will be talking about cancer. Hey there, hey there, hey there. And we do have some special guests, as I mentioned. So again, as we're having everyone kind of pile in at this point, you're going to have to sit next to each other and have your phone
Oh,
vertical, guys. Yeah,
got it.
you have to turn it around. There you
There
go.
we go.
Yeah,
Okay. We got to sit next to each other.
you're
Come
going to
on.
have to sit next to each other. Absolutely. So,
Uh,
so with that,
True.
give me 1 second, guys. I want to make sure that I've got Charlie invited here, and I think that I do. 1 second here. Let me make sure that I've got him invited.
Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that.
Okay. Just invited Charlie again, so hopefully he's able to do this. Now, for those of you that are joining us that are new to this, again, as I mentioned, this is the check-in with. It's a monthly chat that both my good friend Charlie Red and I host. We talk about a myriad of topics, and specifically coming into this year, the one thing we said we wanted to do was be a lot more intentional about the types of topics that we discuss, not just kind of lighthearted, but some serious topics as well. And specifically, we want to talk about topics that are near and dear to our hearts and throughout all of our communities. And today is no different. We are going to be having a conversation with respect to cancer. It looks like Chuck is in the room. Chuck, let me see if I could pull you up if you're not able. So let's see. There we go. I think you should be able to join here in just a second, Chuck, if you're not doing it now. So with that, as I mentioned, we've got special guests today, and I know that Charlie is in the room, so I'll go ahead and at least start by introducing our special guest. To the bottom left of me is my loved one, my near and dear, my husband, Will Mason, and then horrible. And then to the bottom right, we have the Smiths. That's the best way to put it, the Smiths. So with that, that would be Tammy and
Mm,
Howard Smith. So there you
mm,
go.
mhm.
Again, folks that we've just known forever. Chuck, if you are having an issue being able to come up on camera, let me see. Let me accept it here, and let's see if it's going to bring you up, buddy. And then here in just a second. Now, bear in mind, this is our first time doing it on IG Live, so you just have to kind of deal with us for half a second. There he
Oh,
is, Charlie Red.
There you go.
Okay.
Sure.
hey,
So
y'all.
let me stop for just 1 second. Chuck, I kind of like this already. This looks great in comparison to Facebook Live. No offense to Facebook. It is what it is. All right. And as I've already introduced our guests, again, Charlie is my co-host. Again, out of everybody on the screen, I've known Charlie the longest. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, give it for what it is. Take it for what it is. But
Yes.
in regards, Chuck, I was talking about us wanting to be very intentional this year and talking about things that are very, very important to us, not just, just kind of casual, let's have a good time conversation, but really kind of dig in and have some very important conversations with things that affect our community. And in this case, this month we are going to be discussing cancer, some signs, some symptoms, some prevention tips, anything that we could be looking for. We definitely want to make sure that we do discuss. And as I say that, I will say, for the sake of transparency, I'm grateful that the guests that we have this month, the two men that we have that are guests this month, are actual cancer survivors. So my brother down to the bottom left now, because Charlie's joined us, Howard Smith. as well as my husband, William Mason, are both prostate cancer survivors. And so what I really wanted to do, and obviously Tammy and I are the spouses of. So really, we're not here to tell their story. We really want to make sure that the gentlemen have an opportunity to tell their story and kind of what they noticed and what kind of happened along the road, for as much as the two of you don't mind being transparent, if that is okay. Okay. With that, then, if you don't mind, could I actually start with Brother Howard? Hey, Brother Howard.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm blessed, brother. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
You better stop. Okay. Um, if you don't mind me starting with you, brother, because obviously I know Will's story, and I know that Will has a story to give. But if you don't mind me starting with you, could you kind of tell us or tell everyone what's something that you kind of noticed? What was kind of the thing that prompted you to say something might be amiss?
Um, Besides the person that I'm related to by marriage said, she was like, you need to go do your physical. I did a physical. My last physical was prior to COVID. So I hadn't done a physical, I believe it was like in 2 years. So I went back and the doctor was like, hey, we got to run some labs. I said, oh, okay. So we ran some labs and then the labs came back and said your PSA is high, and I'm like, PSA, which is prostate specific antigen test the protein in your that the prostate gives off. So he said your number is high, and I'm like, well, what is high? Well, 4.0 is normal, but it just depends on your age. But mine was
65.
It was 5.25 the first time. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, when we're going to have to do another test. So then we ran another test and then it went up to 5.65.
Mm-hmm.
At
Mm-hmm.
that point, I'm like, what does this all mean? He said, well, now we're going to have to test, we're going to have a biopsy to test to see if you have prostate cancer. Okay. So we set up a biopsy. We did the biopsy. Tammy sat in the corner while had my stuff open to the world. She sat there and we did the biopsy. And then a few weeks later, I got my results back, but it was a bunch of medical jargon. I didn't understand it. It was a few pages long, and my Gleason score was 3
No,
I'm sorry,
three.
3+4
On the left
on the left
and 4+3.
and 4+3 on the right. So I didn't know what that meant. And said, well, you're going to have to wait for your provider to explain. I'm like, well, you sent me all of this. I can see all this, but I don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait a few weeks. And then they told me, that with those numbers and everything, you have prostate cancer. I'm like, you could have told me that when you sent me those 4 pages of whatever that medical jargon was. So then I had to inform our daughters about my condition, and of course they were upset. Um, but I told them, we caught it early enough, so we're going to be able to, we're going to have do some measures to see about getting it taken care of. And we did uh, who did we see first? We saw a gentleman, one of our doctors here, and then he's like, you can get a second opinion, He said, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You can get a second opinion. And one of Tammy's friends, her mother goes to this place in Seattle, Washington at the University of Washington Medical, Fred Hutch Cancer Center. All they do is cancer research, cancer. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. So we drove up to Seattle. We saw the doctor and we saw the doctor and then we saw a radiologist. So then we made a decision to go to Seattle to get the surgery. I got the surgery on August 5th. I was there for a day and I left August 6th. And then, of course, the recovery time. So that's been about, 8 months now?
8 months.
So
Yeah.
8 months after the surgery, of course, I had a catheter. This was my first major surgery. I never had a major surgery where I was of anything. All the years of the military, playing football, never had any major surgery. So that was that was a shock when I had to go there. They would give me the anesthesia. Again, Tammy was in the corner looking at them, try to put in the IV and giving them the eye. And as I was like, "Ow, that kind of hurts." And then so then the older doctor took away from the intern, and she got it in there, and then had the catheter for
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And then that was an adventure. Slowly moving around with that thing. I couldn't come downstairs. Tammy wouldn't allow me downstairs. I stayed upstairs for 2 weeks, and I just happened to sneak downstairs to go to the mailbox. She had left to go to the store, and I just snuck across the street to the mailbox. But as I was coming back across the street, she came swinging around the corner, and I could see her at the end of the street. And I know she was just cussing. Yeah, what are you doing out here? You're not supposed to go back upstairs. Look at me. So after that, recovery was it's been pretty interesting. There are things that, you have the incontinence. That was a big thing. They were like, you're gonna have to protect yourself. You're either gonna have to wear like a pad, or you're gonna have to wear like the pull-ups. And I was like, what? I gotta do that? But that first day coming home, when I got out the car, I was like, oh, I can't stop this. And it was just like, woo. She's like, oh, you all right? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. So after that, it's just been monitoring my numbers. I've been back twice to the doctor. We have another appointment in a few weeks in May, and then they're monitoring my numbers to make sure that the numbers are staying down, and then of course support from my wife and family has been great. And then there are other things that that factor into it. You have your intimate time. That's a big adjustment because
We'll get there. We'll come back to that.
Okay. But
around to that.
We're gonna get around to that.
We'll get around.
So far, that, but the funny thing, I guess it's not a funny thing, but whenever you just say you buy a car, you buy one certain type of car, nobody has this car. The next thing you start seeing the same car popping up. It's just like when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, people were starting to pass away. Sports figures. Oh, what he died of? He was 78. It's prostate cancer. I just kept seeing prostate cancer, and it wasn't all African American folks. It was just a variety of people that had prostate cancer. And I was like, what? And so that was really weighing heavily on me. Just saying the word cancer. When you say that, anything after that, people don't really pay attention to, because once I said that to the girls, they were like, they just fell apart. I was like, but we have options to take care of it. So, and that's pretty much how it's been going so far.
Okay. And again, I appreciate the transparency. And obviously, we all have spoken, and so therefore I know some of the information, but I appreciate you being transparent and sharing. But we will come back to certain things. So thank you, Elise, for sharing that information. Because I know that's great. That's great. Mr. Mason, what you got, buddy?
Mr. Mason.
Welcome to the pod, by the way, Mr. Mason.
Hello, everybody out there. My lovely wife, Charlie, Howard, Tammy, everyone to the Instagram land. Well, just to, I guess, echo what Howard was saying, how the course of events took place. Remember, maybe I remember you suggested, hey, yeah, I think you need to go ahead and take a physical. So, follow through. I went ahead and did a physical. Referring to PCP, talk, got to know him and ran the labs and all that. The common denominator was he said, I'm starting to notice your PSA level is kind of high. And that kind of led to him saying, well, you know what? I keep seeing this PSA level. I'm going to go ahead and refer you to a urologist. So, refer me to urologist. Went ahead and did the initial check, that sort of thing. And I want to say that he said he noticed um, something about my prostate. He said, just want to go ahead and do a test. I think the first thing we did was a colonoscopy. I said, yeah, I referred, if I could say it, excuse me, people, I'm not medical, so
We are
I
not
hate,
holding
sorry.
it against you. We know what you mean. It's okay.
That C word,
Yes.
do the C word, right?
Yeah.
So,
Colonoscopy. Yes.
Colon.
Yes.
colonoscopy, okay? So he did that. Went, and then we, of course, on my first time ever doing that. So, it's kind of nervous. Best nap I ever took. Came
Yeah.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Said, okay, something really doesn't, is not jiving. And it led to I want to say, biopsy. We did the biopsy. And when they did the biopsy, said, well, no, something's not right. So let's do an MRI. Did the MRI,
Yeah.
and they noticed on the right side, correct me wrong, baby, on the right side of prostate, they noticed some growth and said, and got back to my radiologist and the Gleason numbers. I remember he said something about the Gleason numbers. I'm not sure what the scale is. I'm sorry. But he said that it kind of leaned over to unfavorable.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, I think you have prostate. And it was like being struck by lightning. Like, wow. I was like in shock. What do you mean I got cancer?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and talk about it in adjustment. And I want to say, baby, were you there when he told me that? Were we in person? Yeah, she was. I'm sorry. Yeah. And we were like, okay, it's a sickness, but we're going to take this to prayer and we're going to speak that, healing over it. But after getting that news and leading up to the surgery, I would say that was probably the hardest time frame ever in my life because of the fact that, okay, I got this disease and coming to terms with having it, right? And I was like, man, this surgery can't come back. What it was probably maybe a month or two out, and I gotta say that was probably the longest month and a half I've ever waited, ever. It was like waiting on the lottery. Waiting on stuff. Just you just come on, let's go, let's go. And as the time approached, and I want to say the the worst time, and maybe the eve of the surgery or the day before surgery, I was so nervous because, like you, Howard, I never had major surgery before. Only thing I probably had oral surgery back in the day, getting
Mm-hmm.
braces, that sort of thing. But as actually being, as they would say, cut into, that's a new field. That's a new road. So I was really, really nervous. But I love you, wife. She was like, "Baby, it's going to be okay. They're gonna do whatever. These people done this. Even the doctor, he said, I've done this millions of times. This is nothing. My urologist was the one that actually put to point of doing the surgery. He said before that, he said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I've done this millions of times. There's nothing to it. And that right there helped out a lot. Because at least I know this physician. We have a relationship, if you will, and I know him, and did the thing, shot EIV. I remember the day it was in the little gurney. They gave me to let it ever, knock me out, and they did the surgery. Coming out of the surgery, I was of course like, woozy, like what happened, and Howard, like you, okay, catheter. It's like, and dealing with that was an adventure too. Anybody that never dealt with catheters, you are in for a treat.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely.
it is not a good treat. And then the incontinence, that was something that was constant. But I would say coming out of that, and I was so relieved. I was like, man, I was just oh, okay, the other side of it. And the surgery, of course, when my doctor was explaining it, he said it was less invasive, so it was high tech, robots. I don't know if you had the same thing, the Da Vinci,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, we're not going to opio all the way up. We're going to use a robot and have certain poke parts we want to poke through and that sort of thing to got the robot doing this thing by computer. So me, that touched on my IT sensibilities, I'm techie. So I'm like, wow, okay, cool. And I want to say he's shown the actual robot. I want to say that's what we're going to be working with. I'm like, okay, that looks pretty cool. But anyway, getting back, I don't want to drift too far, but getting back to it, I would say, you know, after taking the catheter out, I want to say that he gave like what do you call it, a post prognosis, saying, okay, well, you know what, for what we see, Mr. Mason, it looks like you're on the up and up. Um, you know, and just come back. And I remember coming back for a follow up, and he said, "You know what? I don't see nothing. Nope, your PSA is non-existent." And he said, "You know what? I'm going to say that you are cancer free." And I think I want to say I'm due for a exam or a appointment pretty soon. And he's just like you, want to make sure that the levels are where they need to be. I think the last one was like 0.01 or 0.02. And he said sometimes it can fluctuate a little bit, but he said I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, you know, it's been a journey for me, and it's been a journey for both of us. Because I'm not going to exclude her by no means. She was just basically, Tanya has been just, she's, I love her very much. And she has definitely been a source of support and encouragement from day one.
Well, we'll come back to that. Come
Yeah.
back.
So, but that's
We got more good stuff. We got more good
that's my
stuff.
spiel.
But you know what? Again, well, I have to pause to not be saying, "Yeah, baby," because that's how I talk to you anyway. But hey, Will, we appreciate you for being transparent with us.
You're welcome. I'm so
So
formal.
appreciate of your transparency with us here today, Mr. Mason.
Yes.
But with that, Chuck, do you have anything that you want to impart? I'm sorry, before I kind of go on to the next here. Is there anything that you want to add to questions wise?
I know I'm just here to listen and like you said, I appreciate both these gentlemen for, again sharing. And one of the things hearing in their stories kind of struck me two things. Number one, the support, and number two, the before and after. Like even Howard said, he said I played football. I was in the military. I'd never been through anything like this before. And then when William saying, "Hey, close I've had is oral surgery," and maybe because I'm coming off the fact that kind of what they said resonated with me because I had, other than up until February, I'd really never been hospitalized until all of a sudden I find myself hospitalized. So when you go from you never have experienced this to all of a sudden now you find yourself in an unfamiliar situation.
Exactly.
Thank God you have the support that you have, but still going through that yourself. And so I'm glad that both of these gentlemen pretty much shared that because I think that's what actually prevents a lot of us from taking the next step. And then when Will said that, that whole month that I had to wait, I'm just looking from a, just regular machismo brother, so quote unquote perspective that, well, maybe you know what, it'll just go away and I won't do nothing about it.
But it ain't going
And,
away.
No, it's not
so
good.
and then the other thing
Not
too
going away.
that was good is that both of these gentlemen basically have spouses who are in the medical profession. So you start talking, and again, I agree. And even Howard when he said that, it hit me because you start talking about people are talking a language just like the military language
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that's unfamiliar to the civilian world.
Mhm.
2 clicks past the PX. What does that mean to me? So when the doctor starts talking about Gleason and this and that, what does that mean to me that you have somebody there with you to help you interpret what's being said? And it basically, as a man, being humble enough to let your wife do it, that helpmate. So that's the things I get. I appreciate both of you, gentlemen. I just want to break down your stories a little bit because you touched on some very important things that, from a person not going through this, could really resonate with you. And
Mm-hmm.
and thank you for that, gentlemen. Both of y'all. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely, definitely.
Absolutely. Again, if as spouses, Tammy, if and I'd like for us to take the back seat in terms of this because we have been here to support it. It really it's what we signed up for. I'll
Right.
be the first to say that. Just us being all of us on here are married, so this is what we signed up for as a part of this, this vow that we
Mm-hmm.
took. Um, but I think it important. Howard, you mentioned that it's not something necessarily that's prostate cancer specifically. I know I came into this saying just cancer, and just for anybody that's watching, Prostate Cancer Month is actually in September, but again, this is Cancer Month, kind of an awareness month. So I just want to make
Right.
sure we were at least able to talk about it with people that we know that have experience with cancer. It may not be, I know it's an umbrella basically to say cancer prevention, but and prostate is specifically for September. But again, we have loved ones that we can talk to, so we wanted to be able to bring the information today. But Howard, you'd mentioned that it's not exclusive to African American, to Black men. Um, I don't have any statistics, and I didn't want to go pulling statistics. I know that it's very prevalent
Yes.
with Black men.
Hmm.
Okay, I do know that because one thing that that Tammy and I did was we went in and did some homework to see what we're looking at here and to see if it's more, relevant within our community as Black people, which it
Mm-hmm.
is. But as you also said, it hits all the way across the board. I know that I'd gone to the urologist with Will one time, and I was just surprised to see how many different ethnicities were in that office.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, my God, and not to say that they were all there for prostate cancer, but they were there for something that's urology related. So I'm like,
Right.
it's a very strong probability, But again, just from a perspective, as we've got 3 men on this phone, and the one thing I will say, and I would like to hear actually from the three of you, um, being Black men or African American men, however you feel like you identify, um, do you feel like you came to a point in your life where you sat back and said, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm all right. I don't need to go. Oh, it's just fill in the blank. Has there been a time where you've said, I don't want to go or I'm not going to go? And do you think it was fear based? And if the two of you don't mind, I'm start with Chuck because you were just recently, as you said, hospitalized. So if I could start with you.
The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, again, I don't want to take away from these gentlemen's stories
Mm-hmm,
because it gets very,
mm-hmm,
very profound. But in my particular case, yeah, I should have actually gone to urgent care. My wife encouraged me to go to urgent care Saturday night, which I didn't. And all of a sudden, we go Sunday morning, which I had a horrible night from Saturday into Sunday, couldn't breathe. And all of a sudden, we go there and they take my oxygen level, and my oxygen sat dropped to 69%. So they
mm,
said, you have two options. Either your wife take you to the emergency room immediately, or we call an ambulance to come pick you up. And then from there, by the time I got to the hospital, it was almost like, what Howard had described. They put IVs in me, had the BiPAP machine on. I said, wow, this is serious. And so, again, whether you've been an athlete, been around machismo, whatever you want to call it, that you survived a lot of the common things, you think this is just one more of those opportunities, and no, it's not.
mm-hmm,
It got real
mm-hmm,
serious, real fast.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
so that has been my experience, and that's why I said when I sat there and listened to these gentlemen talk, it resonated so strongly with me because I can kind of feel what they were saying. I could feel what they were going through, having
mm-hmm,
just gone through
mm-hmm,
that. And again, what Howard said, I've been to the military, I played football. I never experienced this before. Me, I'm,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm saying they're like, no, we're going to admit you. What do you mean admit me? Just give me some oxygen, and let me go home. no, we're going to admit you.
Right.
And I'm sitting there with oxygen in my nose, and I had to, since they told their story, I had to go to the bathroom. And so I said, okay, I'll take the oxygen out my nose, and I'll go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, I almost fainted.
Oh,
Oh,
Just from 5 minutes of trying to just put the oxygen out my nose.
Okay, wait.
I almost,
Tammy, where you at? Tammy, slide to the camera. My man had a bypass on and took it off.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tammy. I'm sorry, Tammy. Go ahead, Chuck.
I'm just saying, that, again, you feel that you can, you yourself can overcome certain things, and then you realize you really need help. So
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
my part. So I'll turn it over. I'll pass the ball to these gentlemen.
I appreciate that. Okay. Then I'm going to come back around this way. What about with you, Brother Howard? Has that kind of been your experience? And you really, to me, you and Will slightly different because you have been military. So I feel like y'all were supposed to go have physicals anyway, during your active duty years. But do you feel like since that point of time that you kind of slacked off on going and having, seeing the doctor, blah, 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 oh, it'll be fine. It'll go away, da, 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 da. I'm going somewhere with this. That's why I'm asking the question. But what are your thoughts, Brother Howard?
oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, in the military, we had physicals every year, And then once I retired, I would still go, and then, I wouldn't go. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going this year. And then, there's a nurse that stays really close to me. She's like, you need to go get yourself checked out. Something's not right with you. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And the push, push, push. We're not gonna say that. The push, push, push,
Mm,
and then when you finally go to the doctor and you get in there and they were like, hey, good thing you came in now, because if you'd have came in any later, this could be a lot worse than what it is now.
mm-hmm.
So now, I go every year, and in any other appointments that I have to go to. So I do go. And of course, Tammy being a nurse, she's always like, would they say or if she goes with me, she writes down a lot of the stuff. So she has her
but
journal, and
check
she
what it says. Check what it says.
What's the thing? It's
what does it
backwards.
say?
What's the thing?
Oh,
It's back.
faith can move mountains.
Amen.
Put this in my
Amen.
book. I
That's her
write. I
journal.
write all this stuff. I've been writing in it for a while.
So
All right.
yeah,
All right.
like most men, it's like, yeah, I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. And,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
growing up, a lot of our parents, or older men that I knew, they were like, I'm like, I've been, nah, I ain't going to the doctor, I ain't going to the doctor, I'm fine. And then next thing you know, boop, they're no longer here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something could have been prevented if they would have just visited the doctor. But, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that with the
Absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
the doctor.
Absolutely. Tammy, let me have Will answer and I'll circle back around. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, brother?
Well, I would say that two things, and I'm quite sure everyone can agree with me that historically, black men, um, we kind of look at anything that's medical, anything that has anything to do with doctors, with a, I know this is an old school term, but jaundice eye or a side eye. Let me bring it back to 21st century term, side eye. Um, we side-eye anything thing to do with that because of our history, yeah, especially in this country.
No,
Um,
are we talking like Tuskegee Airmen history? Is that what you're kind of?
yeah,
Okay.
Tuskegee
I had a feeling that's what
experiment,
you were referring to, but
the
I just want to double
syphilis,
check.
that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, of course, that's being passed down through our families, to all our families. So a lot of us, including me, were very fearful, or kind of like standoffish, or take on the Superman archetype. I'm good. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm healthy. Um, Professions or what jobs I had. Used to move furniture.
IG.
So, it's like having to work out every day, work for about a number of years. And then when I met Tanya, I was working for a company, for hospitality, and they and our department pretty much did setups for any conventions that come to the resort, whatever. And that's a physical job. You breaking, you putting on breaking down. You moving chairs, moving tables. That keeps you in shape. So I had to the mentality of, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm gonna be
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah, catch a cold. Oh, I'll be all right. I'll just take something.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of these things out there that are a lot more serious than colds. Taking something for it over the counter is not going to help.
Right.
You got,
There's
and
no there's no over the counter for cancer.
yeah, and it's, I think it's a matter of you have to come to yourself and say, you know what else, what do I want to happen? You got to use your priorities. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to be like, and you have to humble yourself. Like, you know what?
Oh, okay.
Being, as you said, Chuck, Superman, super soldier, whatever you want to be, does that take precedence over me being here
Good, good point.
to continue this walk with my wife and being here for my family? Does that take precedence over that? Me having the S on my chest, does that take precedence over me actually being able to see another day or being able to function? So there's a lot of things that come with
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I think you have to, as you know, as men, we have to come to a to ourselves, to the end of ourselves, and say, well, you know what is more important? And I think I want to say anyone that has gone through this, you come out on either side that you are ready to be an evangelist for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't, so I would say that's probably one of the most positive things about it. You know, you want to spread the word about it.
I think that that's what, as Chuck and I were talking about topics coming in this year. Don't get me wrong. I know we started this last year, January. Let me stop for a second. Let me acknowledge that this is the check-in with. This is the monthly, at this point, it's now our IG chat that both my good friend Charlie Red and I host. We do cover a myriad of topics, and specifically for this month, we are talking about cancer, signs, symptoms. I don't know if we can talk any preventions or not, but just signs and symptoms and things to really kind of be on the lookout for. This month we do have some special guests with us. To my top right is my husband Will. To my bottom left is the Smiths, Tammy and Howard, and to the bottom right would be my good friend Charlie Red, who is my co-host. So with that, couple of things as we're sitting here talking, and Tammy, I know you had wanted to intervene on something real quick. It's very interesting to me that we can only speak from the Black community,
Right.
obviously. And I think all of us know of any men in our community that sat back and said, I ain't going no doctor, blah, 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 blah. Please don't think it's exclusive to you, because even though I work in healthcare, there's procedures I don't want to go have done, like a colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm late and I need to get one done. But that being said, I'm going to sign up for one and Will's going to be there for me.
Right.
But I think that some things to kind of talk about specifically today are when we talk about the signs, were there any signs per se? Tammy, I know for you and I, we were trying to convince our husbands to go get monthly or yearly physicals. So can you, as the spouse now,
Mm-hmm.
kind of talk a little bit about what your concern was about guiding him on Howard on wanting to have a physical done? Was there something you saw? Was there anything that kind of was an indication to you that something was a little amiss?
Mm-hmm. So I am going to answer that
Okay.
question, but I do want to preface by saying that historically, tying it in, Black folks, the community, have been resistant
Mm-hmm.
to medical
Oh yeah.
care. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward, the biggest impact, because I was working in the system, specifically in my role as a nurse at that time, was the pandemic. So this is
Mm-hmm.
what impacted so many people with
Mm-hmm.
delayed diagnoses, no matter what it
Mm-hmm.
was. So
Mm-hmm.
Howard's last full physical was in 2018.
So he was really
We roll
behind.
2018. We roll into 2019, And he just did a set of labs. The doctor was like, "Oh, you're fine. I saw you." He just went in, did yearly labs. Nothing had changed. Well, then we roll into the shutdown of the pandemic where you couldn't get a doctor's appointment. And that's if you had a primary. You were already waiting at minimum 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just to whatever. So whatever your issue was, you were already waiting.
Mm-hmm.
The other, and I say sinister because a lot of people don't know this in their paperwork. If you do not see your primary in a year, they can drop you
Mm-hmm.
from their panel. They
Right.
don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
So actually was able to go back. It was 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been sitting on something that really could have been monitored, even with just a lab, but so that you would at least had your number, so that when you went in 2022, your numbers jumped by 2. In 2018, he was at a 3. 2022, he was mid 5. By 2023, he was 6. So we're talking
That's aggressive.
prostate cancer, even though now I'm jumping to your answer. The
Mm-hmm.
other sidebar, the other quick sidebar is one of the things that was so frustrating for me to hear as now navigating this road is, of all the cancers to have, prostate cancer is slow moving. We've got time. If you want to go on your cruise that you planned, you can go. Do you know I said, girl, have you lost your mind? Cruise has been canceled. That's why we have vacation insurance. We ain't going nowhere. Can we get the surgery tomorrow? No, it's slow moving. So, me being who I am, I jumped in, pulled up some data. And again, we're not going to drop it here because that's not what this forum is about. But what I did find, though, was that when they broke it down by ethnicity,
Mm-hmm.
Black men are higher.
Absolutely. Yep.
Are higher. There are
Absolutely.
so many factors, though, that tie into why their cell formation is more aggressive than non-white.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
what he had. When I went through and I was reading his labs, the 4 pages, and I even had to pull out my old pathophysiology book because I didn't remember the classification of,
Mm-hmm.
when I
Mm-hmm.
pulled it out and I saw, and I was like, oh, we got to get this out. We
Yeah.
got to move. We got to
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Because this right here, we are giving it a party. So the signs that I noticed, and this is why no matter who your support person is, you got to pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
it. Almost like you just have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first thing I noticed was the frequency and having to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and I mean, it was kind of like, okay, we, go before you leave. We get to the restaurant. Oh, granted, we were both going to wash our hands, but he was actually going again. So after a few months, I started asking him about his strain. Is it still strong? Is it weak? Are you straining to go? When he started saying, well, sometimes I am straining to go. Then in the middle of the night, he was getting up to 3 to 4 times in the middle of the night just to go to the restroom. Um, there were other differences also on the intimacy side, but like you said, we're going to jump on that later. But that was a difference. But the main thing was the frequency, the urgency, and over time, the strength. And I am that nurse, I'm that person. I was listening and I was like, your strain changed. We gotta, come on, we gotta get going. So once we got all the stuff, and I reached out to quite a few of my friends who are in healthcare, who are providers in healthcare. Like Howard said, our good friend Dana was like, we use Fred Hutch. That's all they do. That's where we're going to go.
Yeah.
The one interesting thing that we learned was Howard qualified for two options. The first one, of course, surgery, but the
Mm-hmm.
second one is this. It's new. It's new to us, but it's still newish. But targeted cell therapy,
Mm-hmm. I
and
remember that.
we
Mm-hmm.
did. We had an appointment with that, but the
Mm-hmm.
caveat to the targeted cell therapy is if the cancer comes back or if the cancer has migrated, you cannot do the surgery.
Yeah. I mean, there's too
And
many ifs behind that. So yeah. Yeah.
exactly, that's the word. Way too many ifs.
Yeah.
And knowing that I had this fresh set of data
Mm-hmm.
regarding the aggressiveness in Black men, the
Mm-hmm.
survival Black men, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, cut this out. We can figure everything else out, but
I
we,
think that we're same page. Same
Mhm.
page for sure. Same page for
yes,
sure.
we want to share.
And
We
yeah,
want you here.
absolutely. Absolutely. I
Connie,
want to take them.
how
Go ahead.
about you? I mean, how about you? I mean, I know she was basically speaking from a spouse's perspective. You know, how about you from your perspective in this walk?
We have a very similar conversation, similar walk. I'm like Tammy. I'm very in tune to my husband, and I know everything that he does because I'm watching him. I don't mean like but but I
I know, right?
I need you to move that all the way back, Chuck. We don't want to see that again. But uh, but I'm observant of what's going on with my husband, and so therefore, and as he said, I was asking him to get physicals, da 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 da. So again, the thing I think that struck me, and I'm going to keep this portion short because there's so much more that we need to cover, and we're coming up on time pretty quickly here, was his primary care physician and the length of time it took him to finally get to hey, your levels, PSA levels are, they've gotten higher. I mean, this went on for a couple of years.
That's what.
And I'm grateful that at least he was like, okay, well, let me send you to a specialist because that really upset me. I thought we could have taken care of this a year before if that's the case. And
Mhm.
thank goodness it was only on one side of this prostate and not the entire thing. But still, the point was, what you trying to kill my husband? He could have been seeing somebody. But again, hindsight being 2020, and God had it happen when it was supposed to. So yeah, that's. But I have a very similar conversation to Tammy. Let me jump ahead for a second because I know both Howard and Will jumped in was talking about intimacy. Tammy, you kind of mentioned it here a minute ago. Not to go too far in the conversation, but I will ask this question. Do you feel as though pre-cancer or prostate cancer versus post-prostate cancer, do you feel like there's a difference in the level of physical intimacy that you have with one another? Um, and again, I'm not asking you to go too far, but I think it's important for us to bring that forth because yes, incontinence is something that you can talk about. You really can't control that. It's something it's a work every day. It's going to continue to be a work.
Right.
But in terms of your intimacy and your desire to be what you were pre-cancer, is that something that you understood going into the surgery and are working around now outside of or post the surgery? So, Will, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. And again, I apologize, babe. It's not that I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's just we're coming up on
Got
time. So, if you could, please.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
just to answer your question real quick, huge difference. Uh, Difference than night and day. Um, all I gotta say is to all the gentlemen out there, um, you have to be intentional about your intimacy with your wife. And you have to be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with her. And that makes a world of difference. And with that, you have a foundation to work on, and you can work from that, build from that, and move forward. But
Absolutely.
the key thing is, and what I learned, beloved, is that you have to be honest with yourself first and foremost. Two, you have to be honest with your wife. Those come hand in hand, and you have to have some candid discussion, be, real conversation, and it's work from there.
Yeah,
Still,
absolutely.
and it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, baby. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Brother Howard, what you got?
Oh, pretty much the piggybacking on what Will said. It's the night and day. Yeah, it's before you're like, yeah, I'm this, and now, like he said, you have to um look at yourself differently, talk to your spouse, and a supportive spouse, is really helpful, because there are times when you think you're ready, but you're not, and then you feel a certain kind of way because you can't perform the way you want to perform, but then the support from your spouse, it's okay, it's only been this many amount of months, they said it's going to take time, and you have to, as Will said, you have to be candid and you have to be patient. And
Mhm.
some people, such as myself, I'm not the most patient person.
Okay,
So,
okay.
uh, yeah.
I mean, we've known you for some time, since, I mean, you class of what, 83, 84, something like that?
Yeah.
But it has been uh, a tremendous eye opener.
Yeah,
After, even just reading up on the things that happens after your surgery, uh, things that happen to you intimately. So there are things you can do. They can provide for you to help you at that time. It just depends on if you want to use it or not, or if you
absolutely.
other type of methods you want to use. But it's been a process, like you said. It's
Absolutely.
process has been, like I said, 8 months now. So yeah, it's it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. And I think that and Will, you kind of said it, because it was going to be one of my talking points. The one thing that Will had said that I remember asking him was, which do you prefer? Now, Will, you know where I'm going with this. Do you prefer to be here and us have the best sex and all of this stuff and you not have the surgery and be dead in a year?
Mhm.
Or do you want to have the surgery and we'll figure the rest of this out, because I'm not with you for what you can do to me in the bed.
Right.
I'm with you because I love you.
Right.
And the rest of it, we'll kind of figure it out along the road. It's okay that your intimate life looks different because you're cancer free. I'm not
Right. Right.
worried about the
Hello.
intimacy. That means you're still here with me.
That's it.
So
Right. That's
which do you prefer? I asked that question because I felt like it was worthy of
no,
asking.
it
And I appreciated that he went with option two.
right.
Let's take the
Exactly.
stuff out.
I
Let's
want
get
these.
the cancer
Yeah.
out. I'm
No, yeah.
grateful for that. So that was one thing that I wanted to bring back around. The other, again, just in terms of Charlie mentioned it, both of you gentlemen have mentioned it. As spouses, we are here today because of the fact that we want to continue supporting you.
Mhm.
Chuck, I know that you had that same support when you were in the hospital recently with your wife. It's just so very important. And again, anybody that's going to watch this or that's watching it currently, you have to understand that you cannot do this by yourself. It is nice to have support, whether it be a spouse, somebody, family, something to help you maneuver through all of this. And please ask lots of questions.
Yes.
Yes.
Ask your healthcare
Absolutely.
provider, ask your doctor, ask your nurse, call back in if you need to, set up another appointment, whatever that looks
Mhm.
like. Ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb
Nope.
question with respect to your health.
Yes.
Nope.
Ask
You have to
questions.
self.
You have to. Because everyone's not going to have a Tanya or Tammy that works in healthcare that can
No.
tell you things. So you have got to ask a lot of questions.
Mhm.
I hate to kind of say this, and I know that we're going to have to come back around to discuss, but I got about 6 minutes left. So I'd like to have at least some final thoughts, if I could. And Tammy and Howard, if you don't mind, just collectively, what's kind of your takeaway? We now shared the gentleman's actual testimonies. We've talked about now from a wife's perspective as support, what we've now brought forward, things that we looked for. Um, Again, what's kind of your takeaway now? What's future now? Again, going back and having your follow-ups, obviously, continuing to work together as a team. But is there anything that you imagine now? Give you a couple of minutes to kind of speak on that for the future. What would you like to say? Well, that's
You understand?
lovely.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
yeah.
Okay.
I think actually moving forward, it's the still keeping the overall physical health the priority. So, you don't want to initiate a return or something else. So keeping your physical health in check, exercising, we do daily walks, and because we've got a wildebeest, 135 dog, so we got a wildebeest. But right now, it's the mental part. It's the mental part. Because yes, now you're here, but guess what? Life is still lifing. So you're still adjusting through this big change in your life, and at the same time, life is lifing. So family members are still unfortunately passing away. People are having hard times that you love, and they need your support. And so it's trying to still figure out, how can we still be here and be
Mm-hmm.
present
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
while we're still trying to cope with what we're dealing with? Because like Howard stated, it's only been 8 months. It's not
Sure.
like 8 years.
Yes, yes,
Well,
We're
let,
yes.
well,
still fresh.
well,
So that's all I.
well, let me. I'll say this if you don't mind, really quickly, because I want to be able to go to Will next. Prayer, prayer,
Mm,
prayer, prayer,
Right.
and I know you do that.
Right.
Take it to prayer, and again, for the two of you, because I've known y'all for a long time and love you to death. Take it to prayer, and God's going to guide you. He brought you this far, and He didn't bring you this far to drop you.
mm,
And I know y'all believe that, and so we're gonna stand on that. And I'm gonna say Amen.
Amen.
Brother Mason, what are you thinking for future, brother? You got like 2 minutes, brother. I hate to put you on the
Okay.
clock.
Oh,
I'll make this short and sweet.
You can have
You
my
said, you
go ahead.
said,
Look just like me, short and sweet. Okay.
absolutely, baby. Uh, faith, prayer, and just get yourself checked out. Don't be too proud to not
mhm.
get yourself to not just have what's going on underneath the hood. Excuse that analogy,
Nope.
but get yourself checked out
Yeah.
Yeah.
because this life that you've been given, this body that you've been given, you have to be a wise steward of it.
Mm-hmm.
You only get one.
So be a wise steward, and this temple that you've been given, take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Take
Absolutely.
care
Yep.
Absolutely.
and
I like it.
love and love you and love and don't be too proud because when you go through things like this, you tend to throw the walls up because you're thinking, okay, I'm dealing with this. But no, you're not dealing with this by yourself. Husbands, guys, don't shut your wife out. She's right there. She's a helpmate. God has put her there for this season. Take advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take that for granted and don't take that for advantage, but appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Okay. Brother Red, do you have anything you'd like to impart as we close out this April check-in with?
No, I just again just like to thank both of these gentlemen for being very, very brave
Amen.
and transparent because you never know who's going to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, also being able to touch on some very delicate
Mm-hmm.
topics, especially with respect to intimacy, and just know that that's life. Like Tammy said, life is lifing. You don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to have a diagnosis to deal with challenges.
No.
Right about that.
So, you know, again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated today. You gave me an opportunity to be educated and inspired. So I just say amen.
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 Amen. Amen. Well, again, this, everyone, is the check-in with, and this is our April check-in with. Again, this month we specifically were talking about cancer, signs, symptoms, and hopefully maybe even some prevention possibly. We spoke a lot today about prostate cancer because our guests are cancer survivors, specifically prostate cancer survivors. And we talked about the importance of getting checked out. Not waiting until the last minute and getting checked out on a yearly basis and appreciating the support that you have in your life, whether it's your spouse, your family, whomever that is.
Mhm.
So just know that as you watch this, or if you're in the midst of watching this now, if you haven't made your appointment, make your appointment and get checked out. With that, I will say this really quickly, and then I know we all need to jump. Um, I have to co-sign to be able to say the importance of getting checked. I just posted on Facebook yesterday that I was at the ER last night. Something was going on. I was having some symptoms. And I called down to Will and said, hey, I think that I need to go ahead and go. I'm not so vain to sit up here and say I could do it myself. No, we're
Mhm.
going. So on the way to the ER, we prayed because I said, baby, let's pray. And my husband is a prayer warrior. We'll pray heaven down. And he prayed over me. And when I tell you that by the time we got to the hospital, which was in about, I don't know, 7 minutes from the time frame that we had prayed, I had no signs, no symptoms, no nothing.
Mhm.
I had no nothing. And we went inside and I told them that, hey, listen, I just want to do this as a preventative because I'm already healed in the name of Jesus. And I
Mm.
will say that and leave that there. And I will tell you that when they did all the preventative workup, da 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 da, all of my labs came back perfect. Everything came back perfect. And I was sitting and saying, again, but God. And of course, I had on a Jesus shirt because I'm a Jesus freak. But anyway, uh, but the point being is the importance of getting seen.
Mhm.
Do not wait. I cannot bring that home any better than to at least end upon the note of me just having gone. And we didn't get home until 2 o'clock this morning. And
Mhm.
that was last night at 10 o'clock or 10:30. So please go. Please
Yeah.
get checked out if I don't say anything more. I'd like to take a moment. I'd like to thank everybody again to my lower left, to the Smiths, Howard and Tammy Smith. We love y'all very much. We so appreciate you. Up to the top right would be my better half, William Mason. I absolutely adore you, my love. To the very bottom to the right is my co-host, my brother like no other, known since second grade, even though he chose Scarlet in 1976,
Oh, let's
Charlie Red.
go.
Yeah, he did it. He did it, and I'm going to say it again because I haven't said it this year, so I'm going to say it again. Anyway, to my brother Charlie to the bottom right, this has been the check-in with. We will see all of you again next month. Please make sure that you join us. It's every first Saturday of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. for the Pacific Coasters. We will see you all next month. We appreciate you.
Go
Take care. Thanks,
Bye.
y'all. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.